Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if your brain is a super logical machine, even when you're just watching things happen? Well, get ready because a new study suggests your brain might be running logical software you don't even know about. This research is all about a fascinating idea. Does our brain automatically make logical deductions about the world around us, even without us trying or even noticing? Think about it, we use logic all the time to figure things out, from solving complex math problems to just understanding everyday situations. But researchers are asking, does this logical thinking happen automatically, like a background process? Or is it something we have to consciously work at? Scientists have long known that logic is key to big achievements like science and technology, but they're still trying to figure out exactly how our minds do it. Some folks think logic is hard work, like solving a tough puzzle that takes a lot of brain power and concentration. Other scientists think that maybe, just maybe, logic can also be more like an intuition. A gut feeling that's actually based on solid reasoning. What's really cool is that researchers have already seen something like this in babies. Little ones as young as 12 months old can use a kind of logic called disjunctive inference to figure out what an object is. Even if they can't see it clearly, they figure it has to be this or that. And I just saw that, so it must be this. Pretty smart for a baby, right? This study wanted to see if adults do the same thing automatically when they're just watching things happen. So how did they test this? In experiment 1, they showed people short movies. Imagine two objects, say a snake and a ball, go behind a wall. Then a cup comes out holding one of those objects, but you can't quite see it. Now, here is the logic part. The experimenters would briefly show one of the original objects from behind the wall. This logically tells you, okay, if it wasn't the ball, it must be the snake in the cup. The researchers then asked people to identify the object in the cup as quickly as possible. What they found was that people were faster when the object that appeared in the cup matched this logical prediction. This happened even when the prediction wasn't the most likely outcome based on probability alone. It's like their brain saw the cues for the logical deduction and got ready for that answer, speeding things up. Now, a smart question is, could this just be because people got used to seeing certain objects together? For example, if they saw a snake and a ball a lot, maybe seeing the snake just makes them think of the ball. To rule this out, in experiment 2, they changed the setup. They made sure the object in the cup had no logical connection to the objects behind the wall. They did this by having a third, unrelated object already in the cup from the start. And guess what? When the logical connection was gone, the speed advantage for matching the logical prediction also disappeared. This strongly suggests it wasn't just simple association, but a real logical inference that was at play. Experiment 3 dug a bit deeper. They wanted to see if this logical inference was actually predicting what was going to happen, rather than just reacting to what did happen. They used the setup with two cups. One cup went behind the wall and scooped an object, like in experiment 1, creating a chance for a logical inference. The other cup just sat there unrelated. They found that people were faster to identify the object when it was in the cup that had scooped something and matched the logical prediction. This shows the brain was using the logic to anticipate the outcome, not just reacting to it. It's like the logical inference was setting up an expectation. Now, for some really mind-blowing stuff in experiment 4, they tested what happens when logic clashes with pure statistics. Imagine a situation where logically object A should be in the cup, but statistically object B appears in the cup way more often. What did people do? Amazingly, their brains still followed the logic. They made fewer mistakes when the outcome matched the logical prediction. Even if that prediction was statistically unlikely, it seems like the logical inference is so strong it is hard to override, even with lots of evidence to the contrary. To really hammer this home, in experiment 5, they compared this logical inference to a non-logical prediction. They had a scenario where two identical objects were involved, so there was no logical deduction to be made. Just a simple prediction based on what was seen. Here, when the outcome went against the statistical pattern, people's predictions did adapt. So this tells us that the logical inference isn't just a general prediction system, it's something specific to logic and it's much harder to change. So what's the big takeaway from all this? These researchers found solid evidence that our brains are constantly making logical deductions about the visual world, and this happens automatically without us even trying. It's not something that needs language, it's not something we consciously control, and it's surprisingly hard to override. It's like a fundamental programming language of our minds that's always running in the background, helping us understand what's going on around us. And to make sure this research is solid, the scientists were super transparent. They shared all their data, their plans, and their analysis code. This means other scientists can check their work, which is always a good sign of reliable research. They ran these experiments with a good number of people, thousands in total across all experiments, mostly recruited online. This helps make sure the findings aren't just a fluke for a small group. The setup was pretty clever. They used these animated movies, and the way they were designed made it impossible for viewers to not have the logical pieces fall into place. They presented scenarios where, if you saw one thing, then you knew the other thing had to be somewhere else. The results were consistent across experiments. When the visual scene provided the clues for a logical inference, people responded faster. This was true even when the logical outcome was less statistically likely than other possibilities. And this wasn't a small effect. In experiment 1, they found this speed up consistently, even when participants saw many trials that actually disproved their logical prediction. They kept making the inference. This is a big clue that it's automatic, not something they can just turn off. Experiment 2 was crucial for ruling out simpler explanations. If it was just about remembering which objects usually appear together, removing the logical link should still leave some effect, but it didn't. This strongly points to a genuine logical process. Experiment 3 further showed that this wasn't just about noticing if something weird happened. Like an object appearing out of nowhere, the logical inference actually helped participants classify objects faster by predicting what they would see. Experiments 4 and 5 really highlight the irresistible part of the title. They pitted logic against probability. Imagine the odds are heavily stacked against one outcome, but logic says it must be that outcome. The brain still preferred the logical one, even if it made them more prone to errors when the statistics were against them. This is the mind-blowing part. Even when the logical prediction was the least likely outcome, people still made fewer errors when the event matched that unlikely logical prediction. This suggests that logic is incredibly potent, almost like a default setting that's hard to switch off, even when it's not the most statistically sensible choice. And when they compared this to a non-logical prediction, they saw a big difference. The non-logical prediction did adapt to the statistical evidence. This really separates the two processes, showing that the logical inference is special in its resistance to contradictory evidence. So, what does this all mean for us? It means that our brains are not just passive observers of the world. They are actively and automatically constructing logical models of reality. This happens so quickly and so deeply that it influences our reactions even when it's not the most probable outcome. It's like our minds have a built-in logical engine that kicks in automatically when the conditions are right, regardless of whether it serves us best statistically in that moment. This research supports the idea that there is a core logical system in our brains that's separate from language. It's fascinating because it implies that these logical abilities might be more fundamental to our cognition than we previously thought, perhaps even a part of how we're wired from birth. What's really powerful here is that this automatic logic operates even when we're just watching visual scenes, without any explicit language involved. This bridges the gap between pure visual processing and logical thought. The fact that this inference is so resistant to contradictory statistical evidence is a key finding. It suggests that logical validity holds a different kind of power in our minds than mere frequency or probability. This continuity from infancy to adulthood is really exciting. It means that these basic logical capabilities might be present from very early on, a foundational building block of our cognitive abilities that persist throughout our lives. This research opens up a whole new way to study logic. By using visual stimuli, scientists can now explore logical thinking using the powerful tools of vision science. Imagine being able to see logic in action, not just through abstract reasoning. Now, like all studies, this one has some limitations. They used adults from the US who speak English and were recruited online. While these findings are likely to generalize, we don't have direct evidence from other cultures or people with significant visual impairments. It is always good to remember that research often starts with a specific group and then expands. So, what's my take on this? I think this is incredibly significant research. It challenges the idea that logic is always a slow, deliberate process. Instead, it suggests we have this powerful, automatic logical machinery that's constantly working to interpret the world. The irresistible nature of this inference is particularly fascinating, raising questions about how we balance logical certainty with probabilistic evidence in our daily lives. It makes you wonder how often we're making these automatic logical deductions without realizing it, and how they shape our understanding of even the simplest visual events. Future research could look at how this automatic logic interacts with our emotions or with our conscious decision-making processes. It would also be fascinating to explore if this core logical system is indeed present in all humans from infancy, and how it develops into the more complex reasoning we see in adults. This research is a huge step in understanding the fundamental architecture of human thought. What do you guys think? Are you surprised by how logical your brain is, even when you're just relaxing and watching a video? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into psychology, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the fascinating world of the mind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.